Okay, ladies, today we're talking about coachship, mentorship, and sponsorship. We'll be discussing what each one of them is and the differences and how each of us can get on board. So, the whole of this presentation is to bring everybody's mind to that place where you're able to analyze and ask yourself, what really is good for me? Do I need a coach? Do I need a mentor? Or why not just ignore both and just get myself a sponsor? You know, that's what we will be discussing today. Please feel free to jump in as we share. It's an open house. There's no restriction. I don't mind recording your questions or your contributions, whichever one. So before I start, I don't know if anybody wants to share with us which word they are more familiar with or which one is a totally new one to them. Mike's open. Oh, which one are
For
you
me, it's
more
a sponsor that I've never heard about, so I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. Okay, who else? So just only Mimi sees sponsorship as a new word. So it means that today's presentation will be very easy because all the other girls, they are very good at every other thing here. So I don't even need to talk much. Alrighty. So we'll start with the first one, which is mentorship. Proverbs 27:17. Patty, can you read for us, please?
I'm already there. Can I read?
Yeah, yes, please. That's nice.
As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend.
Okay, coachship. Okay. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. That gives us the idea that when we're talking about mentorship, you cannot carry out mentorship from an area of being a stranger because we're talking about friends here. But of course, it's not always that you and a mentor might get to that level where you call yourselves friends. But then there must be that element of familiarity. There must be that element of um, throwing away all the formality. One key thing about mentorship is that it is very, very close to having a relationship. It is not something that is done against the background of formality. There's a lot that has to be taken out of the picture when it comes to mentorship. You cannot carry out mentorship by being too official. So I'll start with what mentoring is not. Mentoring is not a one-way street, or you're not passing a baton to someone who is coming from the back. No, it is not. Mentoring is a two-way thing. So you give and there is also taking. So in the process of mentoring, even the mentee at times teaches the mentor. So I remember a couple of months ago, we tried to do mentorship as a group and we paired people. And most of the mentees were just expecting only from the mentor. So most people got back to me and would be like, oh, my mentor is not really telling me anything. But mentorship is two ways. So if the person is not giving, you pull whatever is in that person out. Mentoring is more effective when it is a two-way street. And then it is not a substitute for managing or supervising the mentee. So the mentor is not in the place of a supervisor. No, it's not. That's not what you're doing as a mentor. You're not there to be nitpicking on every small thing the person does. You don't have the mentor on your shoulder or at the back of you putting pressure on you. No, it's not that kind of a thing. And it's not a therapy or a counseling session. It's not a time where you start trying to, okay, tell me what you experienced. You go to the backstory and try to pull out, okay, maybe what you're experiencing is because of, no. Mentoring focuses on the now. It focuses on, okay, where do we want to go from here? Mentoring doesn't look at the experiences of the past and try to build the now based on that, because it's not always that where you are going to is factored by where you're coming from. There are people who have had very terrible experiences in the past, but a mentor has been able to help them overcome that and then move forward. And then it's not a performance appraiser. The performance appraisers we do at work. Maybe you start a job and after 6 months, they put you on probation. You go through your boss's um, questions of how do you think you have fared over time. No, it's not that. It's not that kind. It's not a performance way of managing your performance. Mentoring is all about being positive, all about growing and emphasizing that yes, we are here to do this. We are here to become this. But then it's not a time for you to be appraising one's performance. Any questions so far? Please stop me. So as a mentor, I am there to offer support. So that's the key word, support. A mentor supports the mentee. You are giving support. It's not as if that person doesn't have it all together. Getting a mentor is not saying, I don't have it. No. Getting a mentor is saying, I need that extra help. I need that extra support. I need something to serve as a buffer, you know. So it will enable my mentee manage themselves towards it's either spiritual growth, personal or professional growth. So these are some of the areas. There are other things that mentoring could also go into, but these are the three areas I want us to focus on, especially in this 2023. Your spiritual growth, your personal growth, and your professional growth. So who do you want to be spiritually? Do you see yourself needing to pray more? Do you think you're not studying the Bible as efficiently as you should? Do you think you're not being that spiritual mom over your home? Do you think you're not really being as prayerful as you should be? You know, what of personal? Personal could be disciplines. Do you find out that maybe you sleep too much and you need someone that will help you out of it? Do you find out that, oh, maybe you need to change your wardrobe, or some people who want to learn how to maybe appreciate themselves more? Maybe you have a weight problem or you want to learn how to diet. Mentoring can be there for you. And of course, one of our emphasis, your professional growth. Do you see yourself in that place where you want to grow out of that, but you just can't see a clear way on how to move from A to B? Mentoring is there to do that. You see yourself now as an engineer, but then maybe you are in the wrong place. You're a teacher and you're just not seeing how you can get into the engineering field. You need to get yourself a mentor. So steps to effective mentorship. Now I'm taking it from the angle of the mentor. We'll start with, if I want to mentor someone, how do I do it? I'm really, really hoping that after this meeting, there will be no excuses on why people are being left behind when they've been given mentors, or you have a mentee here and you haven't really been effective. You've not really taken the time to invest in that person's life. So step one, you need to get to know your mentee and his or her expectations. So when you get on board starting the journey of mentorship, the first thing you do is you get to know that person. Just like I said in the beginning, mentorship is a relationship. It's that platform where you're relating with someone, throwing away all the formality and just going down to the basis. So you need to ask the person questions like, what do you hope to get from being my mentee? Or why did you choose me as a mentee? Or what really are you looking forward to getting? How will you commit or add value to this journey? So you need to, from the beginning, establish that it's not all about what you bring on the table. The mentee has to also commit to adding value. There's nothing as bad as when you need to be the one dragging a mentee along a mentorship journey. It's very tasking. And I'm telling you, it's the most annoying thing because the person is the one that wanted to be mentored right from the beginning. So you shouldn't be doing 80% of the job. In actual truth, a mentor should be doing 20%, 80% should be by the mentee. So as a mentor, you must establish that at the beginning, that the person is adding value to that mentorship and not just you trying to pull the person out of where or from where that person is to be. It has to be the mentee bringing everything on the table and saying, look, I really want to get to B. So know the person's fears and also know where the person's confidence lies. So the person has fears. Maybe I want to diet, but I'm afraid that I have an ulcer condition and it's difficult for me to navigate fasting or whatever. Let the person bring it on the table, because you can help the person more when all of that is put out. And then where is the person's confidence? Maybe the person has tried dieting in the past and they don't have any issues with fasting. Yes, they can also bring that to the table. So remember that you are brainstorming with this person. You're not giving instructions. You're not giving directives. You are brainstorming. You're probing the person to get to the best objective. So what you're actually doing is making sure at this step one stage that the person understands the person's self, where the person is at and where the person wants to go to. If that is not done properly in the beginning, so step one is like the very most important part of mentoring. You need to, from that very beginning, see the person's commitment. There's nothing like a mentee that is actually just out to be helped. And then there's nothing as annoying as a mentee who is dragging it. You just want out of that place because, look, it's not my life that needs help here. Yes, in the end, me as a mentor will also be blessed, but I'm not the main person here. In step one, it is the mentee that is the focus. And then step two, filling the gaps together. So the person has been able to put everything out. They've said, okay, this is where I want to be, or this is my fear, or whatever. And there are some gaps. There are some issues that were not being addressed. So I have sample questions like, you mentioned starting a business this year. What if you need a sponsor instead? You bring on different perspectives of seeing things for that person so that they are not just narrow-minded or focused on just one area. So instead of getting a second master's, why not try a PhD? Trying to turn the mentee's mind into seeing things differently. And at times, you might not be able to do that with that first meeting, but you can tell the person, give me time and I'll get back to you. So mentoring is not something you start at the beginning and then you're very good at. It's something that you learn over time. But I'm telling you, it's a sweet experience when you see someone putting their trust and their confidence in you that, look, you are that help I need to get to the next step. And at times, it might be someone who is in a place where you have never been. So it's not always that mentoring has the mentor being experienced in that field. It's not always that. At times, it might be a new field for you. The one key ingredient you need as a mentor is a desire to help. You just want to help. You need that ingredient. And then step three, set up an accountability system. Let there be a cycle. Let there be a platform. Let there be maybe a schedule. You say, okay, can we check up on each other maybe after every 3 weeks? This has to be also established because mentoring is a journey. So just like when you're traveling, usually they tell you places where you can break and rest. I remember when we used to travel in those days in Nigeria, there are places where if you don't stop for food, after that, after a long distance, there is no place or no safe place. Not as if there are no places, but people knew safe places to stop and eat. If you pass that place, you've missed out. So the same thing with mentoring. Have those accountability moments or periods where you really need to check in and say, okay, how are you going? How are you traveling? How is it going? There should also be an establishment of a communication system. Should we communicate on WhatsApp? Should we do a Skype call? Should we use Zoom? Mentoring needs that place where you guys have accepted that, look, this is the platform we want to use to communicate or be accountable to each other. And accountability is also two ways. It's not just the mentee being accountable to the mentor. The mentor also has to understand that you have to be accountable to what you signed up for. You've decided to help this person. So you cannot not turn up for a meeting or not answer a message for like 2 days and not give a reason why you didn't do that. You need to be accountable to your mentee also. And another thing I must emphasize is autonomy. You must understand that the primary person here is the mentee. So they have to own the relationship. Owning the relationship means taking full responsibility for accountability. If they are not accounting as they should, there's a problem. I remember when we started our dieting program, where my mentor was CMC. I won't lie to you. There were days that I had to stop myself from eating because, oh, I don't want to test diamesis 4 or 5 times. I was tempted by my husband to eat rice, whereas I know I am not supposed to have rice as part of my diet. So I had to own my own accountability, emotions or feelings. I don't want to be typing apology every time when I eat rubbish, or, oh, the children made me eat ice cream. No, during your mentoring journey, you as the mentee, you need to own that entire journey. In as much as you are accounting to the person, you need to also understand that the person is not responsible for the consequences of you not being accountable. So you need to own that journey. And then step 4 is that step where there is feedback and questions on where do we go from here? How do we go after this? You're almost coming to that place where you've established a relationship, you've established goals, you've established the plan, the expectations are clearly known. You're already on the mentoring journey, but then there's time for feedback. So feedback is that place where maybe the mentee has issues with the way you're mentoring him, or feels, look, I don't really like the way you delay in answering my messages, or I don't feel like your heart is in this thing. Feedback is good because people are not perfect. And mentoring, as I said, is a relationship and is a journey. So even the mentee should feel free to give feedback to the mentor that, look, I'm not really feeling you. I'm not feeling that you have the time for me, where maybe at times there might be need to change your mentor. Because see, you as the mentee, you really want this to work. So whether you are with the wrong person, it doesn't matter. Your goal is for this to work. So feedback is also that time where the mentor is able to say to the mentee, I don't see you doing this well. But then another good thing about feedback, it can be that kind of a feedback that is sandwiched by good things. It's not just bad things alone. It could also be good things. I'm really encouraged with the way you go for your goals, the way you really keep to time, and the way you're attaining your goals, the way you're growing. I'm so surprised how you have progressed in this area. So feedback can be both positive and negative. And then it's also that time when you set goals. You say, okay, we finished with this goal. Can we handle this goal? Because mentoring can be started with various intentions. It doesn't have to be just one goal alone. You can have a set of goals that you guys want to tackle together. And then step 5, this is that state where you either conclude the journey or you postpone it because, of course, life happens. People move or people get busy, or at times you can even pause it. One of my mentors, we had to pause mentoring this week because she's gone on a trip, and so we will not be able to keep to our accounting times, which I said to her, fine, it's all still part of mentoring you, because you have to understand that life happens. Life is not always going to be smooth. It's also a teaching moment when that happens. So you recap on your journey. So before you conclude or you take a pause or you postpone your mentoring journey, you can recap. You can go over the journey so that you also can have lessons learned as a mentor. And then not just concluding the journey. There might be situations where you might have to hand over the person to somebody who might be closer, or you think is more experienced or is more knowledgeable about some areas that you are not knowledgeable about. So mentoring is not a one-man show. As I said, it's a two-way street. And mentoring is also a form of networking. You can bring networking into the picture. So you find out that somebody wants to be mentored on career goals, and you have no idea about how to change jobs or change careers or move from one profession to the other. What you can do is hand that mentee over to someone whom you feel is more capable to help that person in that area. So now is the other side. Now I'm going to the mentee. How do I find the right mentor? How do I know if someone's experience is best for me? The first thing to look for is, first and foremost, know what areas of improvement do I need to work on. Do I want to work on my weight? Do I want to work on my career? Do I want to work on my communication skills? Do I want to work on my outlook or my self-value or my self-esteem? Like, you first and foremost have to sit down, do an analysis or do an assessment yourself and determine what areas you need help with. I am really, really hoping that sisters will do that at the beginning of 2023, because this is that year that we want to be intentional. This is that year where we don't want to just throw something into the sky and expect it to hit our target. So we are still in January. January still has like 3 days to go. So it's not too late. Sit down maybe after this meeting, even if you have to stay up in the night for those in Nigeria, please sit down, ask yourself, what is that area I need to grow in? Am I praying enough? Am I investing enough into my career? Am I spending time enough with my kids? Am I giving my husband enough time? Or for those of us who are single, am I investing into my education? Do I have something at mind that is actually distracting me from the pressure of get married, get married? You know, from January in 2023, sit down, take stock. You want to build, right? You want to build on your life in 2023. So from the word go, decide, what is that area that I need to improve on? And then when you do that, it now makes you understand which kind of a mentor you are choosing. So if I need someone who will help me with my career, and say I'm a baker, I'll be looking for someone who is a more mature baker. Although it's not a must that at times someone that you want to encourage you in your career is doing the same thing as you. But if I'm a baker and I want someone who will motivate me to think of levels of baking that I've never done before, what I would now do is look for that person who started from nowhere, maybe even a tailor, or maybe yes, I'm looking at a doctor, but then someone whom I feel has that grace of really making me see that I can move from A to B without stress. That's the kind of person I'll pick. So that first question, you need to answer it. And then another one is, does that person have good communication skills? You know, some people that can actually ghost you. You know, some people that are cold frogs. You know, some people that can't flow in a communication. I'm telling you, for mentorship, you need a good mentor that communicates. Someone that loves to pour their life out, not someone that holds back. Someone that wants to spend time with you when you're ready to talk, or according to the schedules you people set. Don't choose a cold mentor. You will struggle in that relationship. And then we have evident character. Is he a kind person? Is he someone who is giving of their life? Not someone who clearly, maybe in passing, has mentioned that, look, I don't really like to have anything to do with people, or I'm crowd shy. No, have evidence of character that this person can actually take me from A to B. Because if that person is not someone who communicates well, or who has good character, or who forgives, mind you, it's going to turn on you during that mentoring relationship. So make sure that it's someone who maybe you have related with the person for a while and you can vouch for the person's character. And then mentoring is not a guardian relationship. So you don't need someone who will be a daddy or mommy to you. You're not also looking for someone who will boss you around. So you need to understand that it mustn't be someone that is old enough to be your mother or your father, or someone that is very older than you. No, it could be your age mate, but you just admire the way the person has progressed career wise or has progressed spiritual wise. And you really, really just want to see yourself going that way in life. And then qualifications is like the last thing. When I talk about qualifications, yeah, it's good that if you want to be motivated as a baker, you choose someone who bakes also. It's fine. But then it's lower on that triangle of how to choose a mentor. So I have 5 C's, 5 A's, and 5 N's that I feel they're very, 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 very vital for mentoring. And this is for both sides, both the mentor and the mentee. So you, both of you have to be people who are competent. You can't fall, you can't fail below the standard that is expected for mentoring. And then you have to have character, and you need to be confident. You need to be sure that this journey is going to be good. You can't be negative. I had this lady whom it was such a struggle, because once you start talking, she will go, what if, what if, what if? I remember there was this day that I just said to my husband, I can't do this anymore, because the more you're trying to guide her towards the positive side, the more she's seeing the negative. Let me tell you the truth. As a mentor, you need positivity around you too. If you take a mentee that will just not go in the way, please, there's no need. Just terminate that relationship, because you also have, you are human. So you also have, you're also a vessel. So you also take in. So you need confidence in the journey that you're going with this person, and you both have to connect. And of course, as a mentor, you need to be compassionate. You need to be understanding, even when the person fails. So it's not outrightly that when the person is not coming along, you get angry. No, you have to understand that yes, the person is coming from this angle or from this background and has been affected with the person's thinking. And then the 5 A's are the accountability we've talked about, and appreciation. Learn how to thank each other, learn how to appreciate little steps that you see the mentee making, or even the mentee has to be appreciative of the mentor. And of course, action. Action means, first and foremost, you have to be an active listener as a mentee and as a mentor. So both ways, both of them need to listen actively. Um, when I say take action in mentoring, it might look like you need to be doing something or you need to be saying something, but it's the reverse. Action in mentoring is being actively a listener. Actively, you are paying attention to what's happening. Okay, Lydia, you wanted to say something.
Please, can you explain active listening just a little bit more?
So active listening is when you are truly engaged with the speaker. So for example, the mentor is speaking. You as the mentee, you should be able to tell what the mentor is actually. So it's not just the words that are coming out of my mouth as I'm presenting now. There is something at the back of my mind I'm hoping to convey to my listeners. Now, if you're an active listener, you're not only listening to my words, but you're also grabbing my intention. So active listening is more than just hearing. You know, hearing is something we do with music. I can be listening to an old tape that I'm used to, you understand? And I can preempt the words of the singer because I already know that song. So hearing will do when it's songs, but hearing will not do when it's communication. During communication, you need more than just hearing. You need active listening in the sense that you're not just getting the words, but you're getting the intention of the speaker. The speaker has something that he or she wants to portray. So it's getting that intention that is active listening. And physically, if we are communicating, it means no distractions. You can actually be distracted with your phone or the environment or trying to preempt the speaker. So before I finish what I'm saying, you already know what I'm saying. That is not active listening. Active listening is taking the impression that I don't know anything you want to say. All I need to know is from what you're going to tell me now. So especially when you have mentored so many people over time, it's like before a new person says something, you already know where they are going. No, in mentoring, you can't be doing that because everybody is different. Every case is different. Yes, both of them might be orphans. Yes, both of them might be Africans. Yes, both of them might be people who are struggling with their careers. But you must allow the place of so I was going to novelty in the ends, but then you need to be creative every time. So it means for you to be creative where you're being novel in your mentoring method, you have to actively listen to everybody. Everyone has their story. You can't assume it. I hope that's explanatory, Lydia.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Because in fact, we women, we are fond of that because we have what we call intuition. So at times we can guess things right and we start to trust so much in our intuitive skills. We do it maybe to our husband. Before your husband don't say something, finish, you take over and you fire on. No, active listening means at every point in time, you're listening afresh. You're giving that person a chance to say something different. And then availability, you're available. You're not always on the call. Be like, oh, please, can you say this quickly? Um, I'm about to go here, or I would like to end this meeting. Oh, can we continue this? No, you need to be available. If you're not available, go back to accountability. Be accountable. Just say, look, sorry, our meeting at this time cannot hold. Can we move it to this time? But during mentoring, you need to be available. And then analysis. Analysis is where you assess the journey, or you assess your mentee, and you're able to fill in the gaps. We talked about how at times their mind is focused on this and you need to redirect their thinking. To do that, you need to have analysis. The 5 N's: nurturing. You have to nurture your mentee. You're actually caring for someone. Yes, in as much as I've emphasized that it's not a daddy mommy kind of relationship, you're also nurturing something like maybe a professional goal, or a personal goal, or a spiritual goal. So understand that you're dealing with a seed, and the things you do in that relationship might affect the eventuality of that person's growth. You might kill it with the words you use. You might kill it with your analysis, even, or your assessment, or your conclusions. So you need to be careful. And then you need to be neutral. I've emphasized that with active listening. If you're not neutral, you always be assuming. You must come from the place of neutrality where, gosh, I don't know anything about what this person is about to tell me. I don't have any idea. So you take it new every time in. Yeah, mentoring, there are some things that will come and it will become like more, oh, I'm experiencing this. But mentoring is that place where you need to be neutral. Keep your feelings aside when you come to mentor. Be neutral. And then also for the mentee, you need to be neutral. Leave your bad experiences. They shouldn't be the reason why already you're losing confidence in this journey. You're being neutral. There are no judgments. Don't make judgments when your mentee has shared things with you. Just let it go. And then no ego. At times, as a mentor, you've mentored a lot of people. You've related with high level people, or you might have a doctorate or whatever. In mentoring, no ego. And at times the mentee might be even the one that is very educated. When you come in as a mentee, you shouldn't bother about who you are. There should be that place of not being so aware of who you are. So no ego at all is allowed in mentoring. And of course, I've touched on novelty before. It should always be new. Every mentoring journey, you as the mentor seek out to learn, and you as the mentee seek out to see new ways, seek out to see, different ways of doing your life. Like, yes, you're used to this, but be willing to allow new things to come into your life. So now, the mentee, your duty to the mentor: give gratitude, give feedback, and let your expectations be clear, and be willing to set meetings, because without those meetings, the journey is difficult. And then to yourself, track your progress. Be able to journal your journey and say, okay, from here to here, I used to do this, but then I'm not doing this now. Thank God for this person. Track your progress. It is your responsibility to track your progress. In as much as you expect your mentor to commend you and say, oh, you're doing well at this time, you also track your progress, because that would give you confidence. That would get you more involved when you see how much you're growing. And then ask for and welcome feedback. When you ask for feedback and you're giving feedback, don't whinge, don't feel sad, especially when that feedback has been given from a good place and a good heart. Take it in, and then ensure that the relationship is healthy. Don't tell people who are not in that relationship with you people what's going on. Take out all the garbage. Keep it to your mentoring journey. Don't let interference. Keep the relationship healthy. Don't let your knowledge of what that person has in their personal life also affect how you listen to the person's advice. So ensure a healthy relationship by also making sure that the journey ends well. So if there are things you notice are wearing good, be wise as a mentee by making sure that, because in the end, mentoring will be something negative to think or remember if that relationship isn't healthy for you. So you ensure a healthy relationship. If you have any problems with your mentor, be bold, speak out, relate to that person. That's why they're a mentor, right? They're supposed to help you handle things like um, If someone is not happy with you and they are honest, how should you react? So don't be afraid. Let the person know at those areas where you feel they are not doing you well. So that's mentoring. Now we will go to coachship, except if someone has a question or a comment or a gray area that you feel wasn't clear. House. No question on mentoring, because mentoring is our main topic. Of course, sponsorship too, because some people didn't understand the word sponsorship. No question. So I can move on, right? Okay, I'll move on. So coachship. Coachship is something that I think most of us are always assuming has to do with the coaching that you have a soccer player being coached by Bonfred Joe, our famous coach in Nigerian soccer. But the kind of coaching we're talking about here is different. This is coaching for results. Of course, coaching is very, very different from mentoring. We'll look at the differences later, but it's a different journey altogether. I wish someone would read Exodus 18, 1 to 24 for us quickly. Okay. Exodus 18, Bible people.
Exodus 18, what chapter, please?
Chapter 18, verse 1 to 24.
Okay. Exodus 18, I'm reading from King James Version. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, and that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. So then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back, and had two sons, of which the name of one was Gershom. For he said, I have been an alien in a strange land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, for the God of my father, he was mine help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his son and his wife unto Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped at the mount of God. And he said unto Moses, I, thy father-in-law Jethro, am come unto thee, and thy wife and her two sons with her. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and did obeisance, and kissed him. And they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. 8. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done unto Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the travel that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness of which the Lord had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. 10. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who had delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who had delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. 11. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, for in the thing wherein they dealt proudly, he was above them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came, and all the elders of Israel, to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. 14. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, "What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto evening?" And Moses said unto his father-in-law, "Because the people come unto me to inquire of God." 16. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, "The thing that thou doest is not good." 18. Thou wilt surely wear away, both thou and this people that is with thee. For these things is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Is it up to 18 or to the end?
24.
Okay. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to God word, that thou mayest bring the causes unto God. And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt shew them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do. 21. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. If thou shalt do these things, and God command thee so, then thou shalt be able to endure, and all these people shall also go to their place in peace. 24, the last verse. So Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said.
Thank you so much, Sister Dorothy. Beautiful reading. From that reading alone, we can already start seeing the differences in coaching and mentoring. A coach is someone who has experience in that area. In this case, you can imagine all of Moses' testimony about how God was faithful to the Israelites, the wonderful miracles, everything. But in all of this, Jethro was not affected. He still had to tell him the truth about where he felt he was, and also give him, what will I call it, directions on what to do. But we must see the way Jethro did it. So coaching is not giving directions, issuing advice, or micromanaging. Because coaching, for one, is someone who already, so you're not saying, like when you're driving, go left, go right. You're actually giving the person a picture because it is your area of specialty. So when a coach tells maybe the normal coaching we know, like the soccer, they say do this, is because that coach himself doesn't play soccer. But then he feels if you do this, this will go well. Now, when it comes to coaching for spiritual, professional, and maybe personal growth, that person already has. So Jethro was a priest in the Bible. He was a medium priest. He was someone who had already had experience leading people. And from what we have read, Moses had two sons and his wife who were not with Moses, they were with Jethro. So it means that Moses had served the people to that level where he could not even take care of his own family. And Jethro saw that clearly this man was being burnt out by ministry. And so Jethro comes in to give Moses a picture, or should I say, a map out of what he is supposed to be doing. This is a little bit different from saying, do this, do that. No, it's actually saying, this is what you should be doing. It is still left for Moses to take that advice on board or not. But then looking at the place from where Jethro was coming, definitely as the coachee, you would do yourself good to listen to your coach, because definitely a coach is there to help, is there to inspire. So yes, Jethro was coming from that place where felt he felt the pain that Moses was going through, in the sense that he was family. Although a coach doesn't have to be, you don't need to be familiar with a coach. In fact, one of the differences between coaching and mentoring is there's no need for a relationship. It's actually formal. So coaches are people like maybe in our offices, you might have the company pay for you to be coached in an area, and it's time tagged. So you're not going to need to do it forever. I looked for that kind of a relationship in the Bible. It was difficult. The closest I could find was this. But even in this, you can see that Jethro still has relationship with Moses. But what I liked about this was that Jethro was giving Moses a map from experience. He was telling Moses that this is what you should do so you don't burn out. So it's the same thing we are expected to do in a coaching relationship, because a coach is a professional actually in that area. And so will be able to guide you, and so will be able to inspire you, but there has to be collaboration. So coaching is not possible without collaboration, without maybe even help from a network. It's difficult to find such an example in the Bible, because the Bible is all about mentoring. Most of the relationships I see in the Bible they are based on mentoring, because between somebody like Paul and Timothy or Titus, what you could see was Paul being a mentor to all these people. But coaching is really, really difficult to find. But what I liked about the scripture was that Jethro was so sure of what he was putting out there. So a coach is usually a seasoned person in that profession. And at times in our current world and time, it involves money. It involves you paying for that relationship. So as a coach, step one, you provide clarity, just like a mentoring, and establish the objective of the relationship. And you look at places where you would optimize just the strengths of your coachee. You look at the person's strength. If he's a good communicator, you want to coach that person to go into an area where they're actually communicating. Let's not forget that mentoring, it doesn't have to be so. I might not have a skill at all, but then because it's a long-term relationship, my mentor might decide to work on me to develop me in that area. But in coaching, you're optimizing what's already there. And then I'm preparing you for another role, but then it's a role that you already have the qualification. I'm not going to take you as a baker. I want to prepare you, coach you to become a medical doctor. No, you already have the qualifications in that to function well in that role. I only need to look at the strengths you have and show them to you and give you a plan on how to get there. And then you also look at performance. How do I overcome obstacles? That's not possible if me as that coach, I have not overcome such obstacles. So coaching also looks at the area of dealing with obstacles. So questions for step one in coaching. What would you like to accomplish at the end of this conversation? That's your first meeting with your coachee. What would you like to achieve because of our time together? And what does success look like when you are finished today? So you see, there's something so different between coaching and mentoring. Coaching looks at higher, whereas mentoring looks it's more lateral, like we're moving from A to B. A to B might not even be something that you will see as higher. It might even be that, oh, you are hot-tempered, or you are too confident, and I want to work on you being a little bit less confident. Some people, their overconfidence is what's killing them. Whereas for coaching, you're always looking at the ladder level of thinking. So that first meeting is how to establish what success will mean for that coaching relationship. And then you assess the coachee. You as the coach, you assess your coachee, where the person is at. Does he need more qualifications? Does he need to do more professional exams? Does he need accreditation? You as the coach should be able to help that person discover themselves, discover where they are and what they really need. So you're having conversations that would lead to um, an assessment of their current state and how that will be able to move to the next place where um, that coachee wants to get to. And then in step 2, you ask questions like, what 3 things did you learn from your past job? So you see, coaching is being more professional than mentoring. Coaching is more for a professional growth. What 3 things will you do differently in the future? What 3 skills are you actively working on to develop yourself for future roles? So these are questions for the second step in coaching. And then, of course, feedback, where you sandwich criticism with praise. Make sure that whatever feedback we're giving as a coach, um, it's not just bad, bad, bad. Make sure that you praise the person. Start with praise, put in the criticism, and then end with praise. And one thing about coaching that I know is that people don't become coaches without training. You must be trained to do coaching because you're going to be paid for this one. It's mostly financially oriented. And then constructive feedback. What's constructive feedback? It's feedback that is given with an intention to inspire growth. So you're not just giving feedback to run the person down, but you're trying to make sure that you focus on a particular area, maybe a behavior or a particular character that you've noticed that your coachee has, and you're trying to make sure that um, that person works on that behavior and that person grows. So you're not just saying you're actually attacking or focusing on a particular area. So the person knows. So when Jethro was talking to Moses in this case, he was talking about the way Moses was overworking himself. He wasn't judging Moses as a leader generally. He wasn't looking at the whole of Moses' life as a leader. He focused on one area, was able to tell Moses and Moses, look, you can't be doing this. When the people bring a case to you, there are some cases that are important, there are some cases that are not important. Those ones that are not so, that are not biggies, you can just hand them over to men that you have transferred your spirit onto. Because he knew that Moses had to save time to be with his family. So constructive feedback is feedback that is strategic, feedback that is focused in a particular area that can be dealt with. So it's not bogus, it's not ambiguous, where at the end you make the coachee feel so discouraged. You know, it has to be focused. So you have these statements like the way you deliver that presentation, it helped everyone. So you can add to that and say, okay, at times maybe you let people contribute to the presentation or you make your slides, but then you must start with praise, you know, and things like when you were late for the deadline, you let your team down. What can you do to ensure this does not happen again? So you are focusing on that behavior that the person came late for the meeting. Then your whole face lights up when you talk about XYZ. Tell me more about what you really enjoy, and making sure that you are also putting in a little lesson, because you spoke, you were excited. Like I'm talking now, I'm excited, but am I sure that my audience is actually getting it? But that doesn't mean I start with the negative aspect of giving feedback on someone's presentation. So in as much as I'm making the person feel good that they presented well, I'm also silently putting in a little bit lesson. So I'm sandwiching a little bit lesson for that person to work on after I've given feedback. So you don't give feedback except it's feedback that can grow the person, especially we mothers. Actually, one thing I wanted to say is that as mothers, you're coaching whether you like it or not. You're coaching your kids because you are being a child. So most of the times we don't mentor our kids. We're actually coaching them because we've already been there. So we've done this thing. So we're not even giving them room to um, go against what we are saying. Because when Jethro spoke to Moses, Jethro was so sure that this is the way Moses should do it, because as a priest, he had handled issues before. So it's the same thing we do to our kids. We're already sure, but then we need to also put positivity. The Bible talks about using words that are seasoned with grace. Grace means there is chance for change. There is a second chance. It's not all doom and gloom. So as a coachee or as a mother, whereas you're coaching without even knowing you're coaching, you need to ensure that your words are seasoned with grace. They are mixed with encouragement and not just to tear down. And then step 4 is the goal setting. The person needs to set goals. You've established that this behavior is wrong. You've agreed that yes, the person needs to change. Now, how do we get to that goal of dealing with that behavior? So the person has to select a measurable goal and let it be a goal that at least will succeed 50-50. Yes, it might be a hard goal, but then let it be that there is a chance of that person actually achieving that goal. So if, for example, the person needs to learn presentation skills and the person is a super introvert, you need to be able to maybe teach the person how to first and foremost present to a smaller audience or a more familiar audience than a bigger audience. So like my staff at work, when I started as the team lead, in the beginning, I discovered that they were all very timid, so very shy. So what I decided to do was, okay, we won't take you to present to external stakeholders. We will start with just us as a team. But we are familiar with each other, so this should not be a challenge, right? But it was still a challenge. So what I did was, okay, why not set the goal of going through trainings? So I made sure they got enrolled in LinkedIn Learning. It was shocking for me. They didn't even know about LinkedIn Learning. Enrolled them for LinkedIn Learning courses on presentation. So we started there. So from there, they will learn how to actually present, and then I can set up the goal of, okay, when we resume, you're going to present to the team on this day. So I have to draw out a schedule, present on this, which are topics they are familiar with. So I'm trying to make sure that they don't fail and then get discouraged. So a goal should have 2 to 3 actions. And those 2 to 3 actions could be first, getting trained, getting experience within a small sample space where they are not exposed, they fail and then fall back. No, you need to make sure that their growth is strategized. It's not just you don't just throw them out and say, okay, do it. No, you actually break it down to make sure that their success level is high. And then be sure to discuss how these actions will support overall growth. You keep on encouraging them that it is for their good, so they don't feel that you're setting them up to fail. We've already gone through this sample goal setting discussions. But one question I would like to really emphasize is, how do these specific actions align with your overall performance targets? So you see, coaching is very much aligned to performance targets. Mentoring is not. I must mention that. It is not. Because mentoring is a relationship. You're ready to do it again and again until your mentee gets it. But when it comes to coaching, because it is being paid for, it is time. So there's going to be a time where management is going to ask me, you came on board on this day, what have you achieved with the team? So you see, time is tied to it. So yes, we have to make sure that everything we are doing is tied to performance targets. Then provide constant follow-up. Just like mentoring, there's follow-up. You're going to be checking in, you're going to be looking at their wins, their progress, and then of course, you're going to make sure that they learn how to manage their obstacles and they also get the guidance they need to be successful. You don't just leave them by themselves, which is another thing I will encourage us as mothers to do with our kids. You've told your child you need to work on this. How are you making sure that you also engage with them when it comes to the obstacles that they are facing? How are you making sure of that? Because telling the child you need to study this doesn't mean they're not going to go through obstacles. So you need to once in a while check in on them, follow up and say, okay, Why you were doing this? What obstacles did you come in contact with? How can I help you with that? I'm making sure that that coachee knows that you are available in case obstacles come up, which they would definitely do. Oh, that was Comfort. I'm sorry, Comfort. I heard your voice like Dorothy's voice. Okay. So follow-up questions. When will you follow up again to check on your progress? And that's another thing. With coaches, they will be doing a lot of the follow-up by themselves because they are paying. If they really want to grow, they're not going to leave it so much in the court of the coach to handle. And then also you encourage them with questions like who will support and celebrate with you in accomplishing your goals. You're trying to make sure that they feel rewarded with all the efforts they put in. What will be the reward of this entire journey? What are possible obstacles that might prevent you from accomplishing them? So these are your sample follow-up questions. So every good leader is the seed of a known or unknown coach, which is why I was mentioning that most of the times we moms or even those who are single, a younger sister or a niece is looking up to you. You're coaching the person without knowing. But in the background of every good leader, there is a coach. Even you are here today because of a coach that maybe you haven't even recognized yet. So sponsorship. What is sponsorship? Somebody was told to have Matthew 25 open so that we can just breeze through this. Matthew 25, 14 to 30. Bible girls, where are your Bibles? Because if I have to read, that will be me talking for the last 10 minutes. Should I call names? Hey, why don't you have Bible? Dorothy, since I mistook that you were the one talking the last time, maybe you should read.
Matthew, what?
I didn't read. Okay, somebody's already reading.
Matthew,
Matthew
what?
25, verse 14 to 30.
Verse 14 to 30 says, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. The master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man. Harvesting crops you didn't plant, and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back. But the master replied, you wicked and lazy servant, if I knew I harvested crops, if you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I would have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, take the money from this man and give it to the one with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they're given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into an outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
So sponsorship is captured by that scripture. A sponsor is an investor. And so in as much as the protige is the word we use here. So the beneficiary of the sponsorship is called a protige. So in as much as the protige will benefit, we must understand that even the sponsor is looking forward to some gains. So there's mutual benefits expected in this kind of a relationship. In the scripture that we just read, we had a king who was about to go on the journey. He calls people, he gives them stuff, and he expects that when he returns, there should be profit. Now, if you look at that story, these people had nothing. They are at that level where they are at zero. Okay. And this sponsor comes to top up on their zero and gives them what they do not have. Now, if I want to take the case of that one that didn't get anything, that went to hide it, it's another story for another day. But if only this guy could remember that he started from nowhere, he had nothing, now he's been given something, then he would definitely not have wasted his time. The problem with our time is we are not having so many sponsors, and we're not also understanding what it takes to be a sponsor. Who knows, you might be here and not need so much to be a sponsor to someone. To be honest, I have benefited from sponsors that didn't have to use their money, because sponsorship at times might be money, might be monetary, it might just be putting in a word, it might just be helping someone with visibility. But let's see what happens. Let's just go. So what is a sponsor, or what is sponsorship? The promotion of a protege for career advancement. And let me say that at times you could also look at beyond just advancement. It might even be for a career change. You could sponsor someone out of a current career into a totally new career. And as spiritual women, we might also see it for spiritual advancement. It could also be that, okay, you've decided to invest in someone because you are able to recognize that where this person is, when I was there, I hoped I had this. So when we're thinking about sponsorship, we're thinking about mutual benefit. So how do we put the same situation as, how do I benefit spiritually if I invest in someone spiritually? We'll come to that later. But then for career advancement, you're seeing that, look, when this person benefits, I will gain somehow. Now, I've asked myself several times, the people that have sponsored me in my career as an engineer, how have they benefited? To be honest, it was just that joy. Like my sponsor said to me 2 weeks ago, she said, now when I laugh, she feels like I laugh without boundaries. I laugh without limitation. Like that is the Elizabeth she met when I first joined defense, because she actually is the one that sponsored me into my new role. So at times that benefit might just be just that self-satisfaction of knowing that someone who was nowhere has been moved to a place. You can imagine this guy or this king, whom of course we know they are referring to God in this story. These people had nothing. And then he gives them stuff and said, look, profit. And then he comes back. And for those who profited, he even gives them more and more responsibility, or should I say, more and more promotion, because he adds to what he had given them before. So how who is a sponsor? Someone who is personally invested in the advancement of the pro-teach, someone that enhances someone's visibility. I was talking about visibility. What is actually visibility? So, especially knowing where most of us are coming from, we are coming from that place where, to be honest, visibility looks like pride. Visibility looks like show off. So, career-wise, people want to be humble. I want to tell us a personal experience. When I first moved to Australia, visibility looked like typical pride to me. When you attend interviews and you're supposed to answer questions with, I did this, I did this, I did this, then this happened. It looked like, but you know very well, you're not the only one that did that. I don't know if someone else is a witness to what I'm talking about. Now, if you go for an interview in the Western world, you dare not use the word we, okay? You dare not use the word we. Are we listening? Is there anybody still in this house? Mind you, I
Yes,
have
I'm
I have
listening.
made my slide so wide. I can't see your numbers. So it's like I'm talking to, it's only your voices that are letting me know that you are in the room. So I'm in
We are
presentation
listening.
mode. Okay. So now visibility looks like pride. You understand? Because when they ask you, like for example, let me ask you a very typical interview question. Please, could you tell me of a time when you thought outside of the box and was able to come up with a creative idea in your workplace? And when you think about that question, you're thinking of a time when it was not just you. Maybe you sat with a couple of your colleagues and you people came up with this idea that helped your company. And then you start answering the question with, so there was this time that my company had an issue and it was challenging for us as a team. And so we decided to sit and brainstorm. Now, you have already failed. Are we listening? You have already failed that question. They don't want to hear that we came together as a team. They want to hear what Elizabeth did. So Elizabeth must make sure that she answers that question, making them see Elizabeth. I need to make Elizabeth visible to the interview panel. Nobody wants to know if you worked in a team yet. If it's a question that applies to teamwork, they will put teamwork in that question. But this time around, they want to hear, they want to be able to see. Okay, so at times it's a sponsor that makes you that visible because a sponsor puts in a word. My current role is I'm a team lead over engineers, okay? But it's not something I ever thought I was going to be doing because I never knew that somebody was noticing that I could coach people, I could lead people. Because my last role before this one, I was nowhere near a leader. But then my sponsor was noticing that, look, I am always, if we go for a meeting, I am always the one bringing out ideas that sounded more like a team lead. So she goes to put in a word. So even before I even applied for that role, they were waiting for me. So you need to understand that you will be a sponsor if you put in a word for someone. It is sweet. It is satisfying. Even that feeling that, look, you were able to discern or you were able to pick out those qualities alone. I'm telling you, it is rewarding. And then a sponsor models self-advancing behavior. So how did I catch this vision of being a lead? Because my sponsor made me see that, come on, Elizabeth, you can do it. Remember, you did it when you did this. You did it when you did this. Now, as women, let me not lie to you. We've talked about imposter syndrome here and here again, but I will keep on drumming it. Imposter syndrome is that little wicked demon that will not leave us alone. Now, what a sponsor does is help you with a thinking faculty that is able to always counter the imposter syndrome demon. You don't see yourself in the place where you should be, but a sponsor can help you see yourself that way. And then the sponsor involves the protege in experiences that will provide opportunities for career advancement. Now, as a sponsor, you might at times not have the money to say, okay, I'm going to give you money to start a business, or I'm going to give you money to go for your master's or go for your PhD. But then you could provide opportunities. Some of us are sponsors on our sisters page where you see scholarship opportunities and you post them and you're saying, look, if you have any challenges, get back to me. I've tried to do this for most Nigerian people because at times it's not in the not wanting to apply. It's that when they start applying, there are challenges like, oh, you have to write a proposal later, or you have to write a sponsorship later, or you have to write a goal later, or like those little things at times is the reason why people just sit down and do nothing. Now, as a sponsor, you are able to
I have a question.
involve. Okay, who is talking?
It's me.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that right? I just wanted to ask before I forget. You were saying you were mentioning something about when you're asking you question, you can't say we, but you have to talk about yourself. Now, what about in a scenario whereby you're answering questions in an application and that kind of a question comes up now? Do you still talk about you there, or because somebody told me that if you see a question like that, because you are not, you are even you're applying as your organization, you're not doing the work alone, so you cannot put you have to be we. So now I don't know, I'm a bit confused.
So see, if you're going to talk about, yeah, in the team, you can talk about, yes, you came up with that idea in that team, but we don't want to hear what the other team members did. I don't know if you understand. So when we start as a team, that I must be visible because I want to see what Dorothy said or did in that team meeting. I'm not interested with what you came up. So if there is no scenario, or if in that scenario you didn't say anything, then you can't use it as an example. But definitely, if you came together as a team and you contributed, maybe you mentioned an out of the box idea that the team took on board, fine. You mentioned that I said this, and then the result is what? Of course, you should be familiar with the STAR. I'm guessing you're familiar with the STAR format of answering interview questions. Are you, Dorothy?
Yeah, I'm with you.
No, are you familiar with STAR?
I'm not.
Okay, so STAR, we have situation, we have task, we have action, we have result. Result is the R, which is usually the key
Okay.
way to answer that question and end with. So what action, what situation? Maybe, oh, during a project, we have this project where we were supposed to go visit a particular village, and our task there was to make sure that we built a borehole. And we tried many areas in the village and they had rocks. And so as a team member, I came up with the idea that why don't we approach the village head or ask him to lead us to a place where there are less rocky areas, and so we can dig this borehole easier. And the team took it on board, which is the R part. Okay. Now, mind you, you were all discussing. Everybody was chipping in ideas. But then your idea came out. That's the reason why you can use that scenario. If you don't have a situation where your idea had a result that was positive, then you cannot mention that. Do you understand? But you know that in retrospect, you could mention the same scenario and it was the whole team that discussed and came to that. Maybe even two of you suggested it at once. But then we don't want to hear that it was two of you. We want to hear that it was just Dorothy. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, the difference.
Yeah, I do. I understand.
So for visibility, own, you need to own the result of that scenario. Yes, you're owning that, like, it was my idea that made this result come out. That was what I meant. So what a sponsor does is allowing your prospective employer or prospective career advancement see you as capable in that place where they want to sponsor you into. So, of course, that concludes the last way a sponsor acts: drive the protege's vision. At times, the protege hardly can see the way they should see, or at times they're seeing themselves wrong. You, as a sponsor, you are driving that person's vision about the person's self, about that career. one thing I recognized when I moved abroad was most people who come from our background don't have the courage to think outside the box of being nurses or being medical personnel. It is difficult. And I do appreciate the difficulties associated with this. It is difficult to see a Nigerian woman in Australia doing engineering. It is so outside the box. Even those that at times come with PR, I'm telling you, they come here because of the way they need money. Nah, 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 nah. I'm telling you, they go and do nursing and stay there. Like the peace they have in not wanting to go for interviews and prove their offshore experience and everything, they just settle in that nursing career. Mind you, I was on that journey of just settling as a nurse. So I needed someone to change my way of thinking. Thank God for my husband. My husband is my sponsor. He's the one that just makes me think outside the box a lot of times about myself. So apart from us looking at the career sponsors, I also want you to start seeing yourself as a sponsor for someone younger. It might not be money. It might just be making the person think outside the box, making the person see life differently. It might just be encouraging someone to pause and think of life differently for a while. Maybe the returns will not be immediate. And so for most people, they can't see beyond the desire for immediate returns. So you will step in and say, look, you might need to wait 5 or 10 years later, but the rewards of waiting 5 or 10 years later are better than jumping into the immediate returns of just a year after. So that's what a sponsor does. So let's understand that the sponsor is hardly teaching you anything, is hardly coaching you in anything. The sponsor is just there to see you jump from where you are to a higher level because you've got what it takes, but you're not aware of it. And the sponsor has picked that up and wants to do what? For that. Any questions so far? Because now we're going to look at the differences between the three. So coachship is short-term, mentorship is long-term, sponsorship is short-term. When you talk about length of how long it takes, these are the differences. And then coachship is supervised by a superior person. The person has to be superior to you because that's the person's area of expertise. So he has competencies and capabilities that put the person ahead of you in that area. The person is able to actually guide you because they have walked your shoes. And then mentorship, you're providing support, you're guiding the person. It might be a knowledgeable person, but I've discovered at times it's not. But then most of the times it's someone who is knowledgeable and who has the confidence to pass knowledge. And then sponsorship takes on the form of investment in a person for gain. So we've established that the gain might not be monetary. It might just be that satisfaction of watching someone who wasn't there get there. And then coachship is impartation that requires expertise in the coaches field. We've already tackled that. And the mentorship does not need to possess expertise in the person's field. My current mentor is not an engineer. She just goes, wow, wow, when she asks me questions and I answer. She has no idea. But I'm telling you, if you meet this woman, she's like, she's crazy. She doesn't, there's no, there is no negative word in her dictionary. If I tell her today I want to be prime minister, she'll say, let's get to it. You'll be that prime minister, Elizabeth. She's just so on fire. She's so, there is no impossibility with this woman. So she's not an engineer, but she's my mentor. And then sponsorship, expertise is also not necessary, but it could be beneficial. So it's beneficial that at times your sponsor has an idea in that field, but at times, definitely, the person might not have expertise, might just have a network that might support that journey of sponsorship. And then coachship is tax oriented, it is planned, and it is formal. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah, so it's tax oriented, it's planned, and it's formal. It's time tagged, like I emphasized before. There is time to it because it's costly. Coachship is paid for. Mentorship is relationship focused. So you do as you go. It's informal. There are no regimental structures guiding mentorship. You run it. Maybe the person needs urgent counsel or advice. They can hop online and just type whatever. There's no structure to adhere to. And then sponsorship returns are focused and can be both formal and informal, depends. So I hope I have come to the end. Any questions? Sandra, ask your question.
Okay, good evening, ma. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
everyone.
Hold on, Sandra. Let me stop the recording now, just
Okay.
so that it's not too long.